It's your girl Ro in the building, and I'm here to welcome you to my YouTube channel. Hey guys, and welcome back to my channel. In today's video, I'm going to share with you an amazing video. I'm going to be sharing how to make my decorated apples, and these are the Cookie Monster candy apples. If you're ready to put your skills to the test, let's jump into this video. Starting off with the supplies, you're going to need a rolling pin, decorated straws, apple sticks, fondant of course, and apples. Now I am using Granny Smith apples. You can use whatever apples of your choice. But if you want to learn the cleaning process, click the link up above. But you want to make sure you check your apples, make sure there's no cuts, dents, or anything like that in them. Now I'm going to insert my sticks, and the sticks I'm using is a 6.5 by 5.0. This will allow the paper straws or your decorated straws to fit over these particular sticks. And all the supplies that I'll be using in this video will be linked in the description box under this video. Now, once you have your straws inserted, you want to make sure they're all level and matched up the same way, and then just set them to the side. So I'm going to be using a lot of supplies in this video. Here I have a blue scraper, a circle cutter, and a plunger cutter. Now I'm also going to be using a Cookie Monster cutter. This will help create my Cookie Monster design, and these will be linked down below, so be sure to check that out. Next, I'll be using a scroll mold. I'm actually going to be using the one down at the bottom, and for my candy coating, I'm using almond bark. I melted my almond bark for 30-second intervals in the microwave until it was completely melted. You can use whatever chocolate or candy coating of your choice. You just have to make sure it's white candy coating or white chocolate. You want to dip your apples and have them completely covered. Make sure all the extra coating or chocolate is drained for your apple before you start to decorate. It's important. You want nice, clean apples. Now, during your dipping process, you want to make sure you take a spatula and mix your chocolate or candy coating during this time. If you accumulate any small bubbles, just take a toothpick and pop them out, give it a shake, scrape, and then place them onto the parchment paper or silicone mat. Once your apples have all been dipped, just set them to the side as you prepare for your next decorations. Now it's time to create our detail pieces. I'm using an alphabet silicone mold to create the word cookie. I have some white fondant, and I'm going to be using some CMC powder and add it to the center of my fondant. You want to add a little bit at a time, not too much, because if you add too much, your fondant will become extremely hard. So add a little bit at a time, work it in, stretch it out until all that powder has dissolved. And if you need to add powdered sugar to your mold, just add a little bit just to help with getting these letters out. All right. So make sure you tap off that extra powdered sugar. What you don't do, please do not take this CMC powder and spray it over your mold. That is a no-no. All right. You don't want to do that. All right. So I'm taking a little piece at a time. You just want to insert it into the mold, in the cavity of this mold. Roll it with your rolling pin. Now I'm going to take my blue scraper and scrape off the extra fondant that you see here. Give it a little tap to make sure it is full in this cavity, and just bend your mold back, and using the scraper to pull it out will give you a nice clean piece as you get these letters out. Now I'm only going to do a certain amount of letters, but I'm just showing you in detail how to properly get your letters to come out nice and neat, especially with this K. I bend the mold back a little bit just to get some of that fondant in there. Give it a little press, give it a little roll. If this happened, just start over and insert it with the fondant again, because these can be difficult, but you know, have patience to get them in there. If you see a little hole, just take a little piece of the fondant and insert it, give it another roll, and scrape gently across the top of the back of that letter. All right. Now I'm adding a little powdered sugar just so that this cake can come out perfectly. So see how I'm bending the mold back, and now I'm getting that K out. And you want to make these pieces like days ahead of time. You can make them even a week ahead of time. It doesn't, it depends on the creation, whatever you're decorating. But with this particular design, I can make these a week or two ahead of time. It's not going to hurt. You can leave them out in your dining room table, out at room temperature. They do not need to go in the refrigerator. Just leave them out because you want them to be nice, firm, and hard when it's time to decorate. Now, once you have all your pieces molded, you want to set them on a cutting board or a tray and set them to the side. Now, remember, once you make multiple designs, you got to make multiple pieces. So this particular piece that I'm working on is the top of the jar lid. So I'm using my round circle cutter to create this piece. You want to create this a little thicker than usual, as you see here. And then to create the handle to the lid, I'm using the oval plunger cutter, and this is just the design I wanted to create. Now you can use a circle instead of the oval. I just chose this particular plunger. All right, so I applied a little bit of water just to place the piece on top. And like I said, if you're making multiple designs, you got to make multiple pieces. Now let's create our Cookie Monster design. You need blue fondant, white fondant, and black. Now you want to make sure your fondant is kneaded well. You do not want to create any piece looking like this. See, when you roll it out, it's crusty. It needs to be kneaded till it comes out smooth like this. So just knead it, work it in your hand, and then begin to roll it out. And I'm rolling it out is this thin and thick, not too thin, not too thick. All right, taking the cutter, placing it over your fondant piece, and press and give it a little shake so that it can come out nice and neat. You remove that extra fondant, and here you have the first part of the Cookie Monster. All right, now you want to sit that to the side and then create your other pieces. Now you can roll out as much fondant as you like to create multiple pieces, as you're going to see me do here. Now I'm going to create the mouth part, and you're going to press, give it a little shake. Now the end pieces are not going to come out too great, and if that happens to you, don't worry about it. I just cut off like that extra. As you see here, it gets stuck up in the cutter, but I just take my scraper and just cut off the ends and create my other pieces. All right, so here are the eyes. Now you want them to be thin. You don't want your pieces, your fondant pieces, to be too thick. Now these little circle cutters are for the eyes, the black part of the eyes. And I'm just taking my apple stick and pressing, getting those out. All right, and this is the other section to create the eyes. And you just press and get those out. And then I'm applying a little bit of water. And then now I'm going to add my black pieces so they can adhere to the other fondant. All right. Now, once you do all of this, make sure they are placed properly, because once you apply some water and then apply your pieces, they're going to begin to adhere. And removing it is going to be sticky, and it's just going to leave a mess. So make sure everything is cut properly and placed well. All right. And this is how you create your Cookie Monster piece. Now here are some multiple pieces, and as I mentioned, you want them to be nice and firm. See how thin this is, and it's nice and firm. You want to use that CMC powder and create ahead of time. All right, creating these pieces does make a difference. So you can make them days ahead of time, a week or two ahead of time. Earlier the better. All right, so now I'm doing the scroll design. Now this particular mold, I'm using the bottom one to create this piece. You really got to put this fondant into the cavity. As you see here, I added some powdered sugar just so that the fondant won't stick. So rubbing the blue scrape across the mold does help. Now, if you have some little holes in some of these cavities, take a little small piece of fondant, place it in them areas, and scrape off the extra, and then mold it down with your finger or your rolling pin just to make sure your whole cavity is filled, and that will give the fullness of your piece. Flip it over onto your surface, taking your scraper to guide it out, and there you have your piece. Now, this particular piece you do not need to make ahead of time, and you got to make it as you go, because you want this piece to lay and form the shape of the apple, because you want this to lay onto the apple. All right, so I added a little bit of water just so that this piece can adhere. Now, when creating certain designs, you got to really think about how you want your pieces to lay. And with this particular piece, I want it to lay onto the apple. All right, so now it's time to adhere the letters. All right, so yes, you could add a little bit of water. That's what I did, but they may fall off. All right, before y'all even ask, well, can I just apply water? I apply chocolate. If you apply chocolate to the back of your fondant pieces with the letters, using the letters, they will stay longer. Now, with the scroll piece, I know I applied a little bit of water, but that's going to adhere and it's going to stay. But with your letters, it just depends, like I said, what you're decorating. So these letters, apply a small amount of chocolate, line them up as you see me do here, and just place them onto the apple. I'm using my mold as a holding piece so my apple won't roll all over the place. But lay it back and make sure everything is centered, and then just place all your pieces according to the design. Now that's all done. Now it's time to create the opening of the cookie jar. So I'm creating a rope to go around the top of the apple, and to create that, you want to take your white fondant, and I'm using both of my hands and working from the inside out to make the fondant stretch a little bit. And once you do that, you just want to size it up to at the top of your apple. I'm adding a little bit of water so that this fondant piece can adhere to the apple. If you don't want to use water, you can also use chocolate. Just make sure you know where you're placing it. All right, so I'm just evening it out. You know, you gotta even it out so the cookies can be placed properly. All right, so as you see here, I'm gonna pull the fondant up just a little bit so it can look even. All right, I'm gonna add a little bit of chocolate to the inside and just place my Chips Ahoy's in here. Now I'm using real cookies, real Chips Ahoy cookies. You can create fondant cookies if you like, but I thought using the Chips Ahoy cookies would be better. And now I'm going to take my apple stick and create this hole. Because my pieces have been sitting, you can do this way before so that you don't have to do it now, but I had made my pieces way ahead of time. But you want to create this hole at the top of the lid so that it can fit over the straw, and just place it right over the cookies as you see here. Now it's time to add our Cookie Monster piece to our apple. But before I do that, I'm going to take a piece of cookie and break it off as if Cookie Monster was biting it. All right, and you're just going to adhere it with a little bit of chocolate. Place the Cookie Monster piece onto the apple, and then place the cookie, adhering it with some chocolate as well, so that it can lay onto Cookie Monster. Now you could do this ahead of time where it will all be made together. That's totally up to you. But as you place it on there, see how it looks? It looks really nice. And here you have your Cookie Monster and cookie jar candy apples. If you have enjoyed this video, give this video a thumbs up. Be sure to leave a comment in the comment section letting me know how you enjoyed this video, and don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. It's your girl Ro about to go, and I'll see you all in the next video.